BMW doesn't really make mistakes, but if there's one model that doesn't sell quite as well as all the rest, it's the 5 Series GT. Its raised ride height and big boot and awkward styling mean it didn't go down very well in the UK. So it's a bit of a surprise to learn that BMW has been up to its old tricks with this, the BMW 3 Series GT. This time around, BMW is promising the 3 Series GT mixes all the practicality of the touring with the sharp handling and sleek styling of the saloon. It's longer, wider and taller than every other 3 Series, making the GT the most spacious and practical car in the range. All GTs come with an electronically powered tailgate, and this one has a fancy hands-free system where you just kick your foot under the bumper and it will open automatically. Really good for if you're carrying bags. And inside is a 520 litre boot, which is 25 litres more than even the Estate. There's all sorts of hooks and nets and everything, and you can fold the seats down really easily by just pulling one of these levers. And then if you get in the back seats, you'll notice that there's a whole lot more room in here than there is in the saloon and the touring models. And that's because the wheelbase is about 110mm longer, which frees up an extra 70mm of knee room. And I'm 6'1", and that seat in front is set up for me as well, and you can still see there's a huge amount of room. The product manager for this car told me that it's as much as a 5 Series, maybe a bit more, and almost on a par with the 7 Series. The 3 GT starts from just over 28 grand. Inside, it looks the same as the normal 3 Series, but there are a few bespoke external styling touches, like the air breathers behind the front wheels and an active rear spoiler. That's a first for BMW. Now, don't let things like an active rear spoiler convince you that this is a real performance car. It's actually set up to be a little bit more comfortable than a standard 3 Series, and as a result it's not quite as sharp. You sit about 59mm higher, so you do get this kind of mini SUV experience. You can kind of comfortably waft along with a great view of the road ahead. One option that I would suggest is the £750 adaptive dampers that we've got fitted to our car. Now, if you have it in comfort mode, the suspension kind of feels more like a 5 Series or a 7 Series. It's really, really comfortable. And then you can stick it into sport mode and everything immediately sharpens up, so the steering becomes a bit heavier and more responsive, and the throttle sharpens up straight away. That's when it feels most like a 3 Series saloon, and that's a really, really good thing. But it's only about 90% as sharp. The BMW 3 Series GT is great in a lot of different ways. So the question isn't really, is it any good, but should you buy one? The 3 Series GT is in a class of its own. Yes, you could put forward the A5 Sportback as a competitor, but that's nowhere near as spacious. So you'll probably end up comparing the GT with the 3 Series Touring, and that's where things get a little bit tricky, because the Touring costs about £1,300 less than the GT on average. So perhaps it's better to think of the GT as more of a 5 Series, but a cheaper 5 Series. After all, it has just as much space and it's just as comfortable. And if you start to think of it like that, then the 3 Series GT really does start to make a lot of sense.